All right. So we've got some corrections on the Korea stuff,
Right.
right? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So actually, Mom's the one who we were sitting there this morning talking, listening to
Right.
the rerun of the tape that you did. And Mom said, I remember why I had to come back from Korea and when I had to come back from Korea. Or, I'm sorry. I remember when I came back from Germany and why I had to come back from Germany. She said I had a green card and I could not be out of the country for greater than a year. We left in July. I had to come back before the day we left in July the following year. So in 1963, we came back from Germany. You
Right.
and Mom came back from Germany sometime in July. And you stayed at Grandma's house
Right.
until I got back, which I think was in November, late October, early
Right.
November. So that's a little different than
Right.
what we thought before.
Right.
And then
Right.
we'll talk about it as we talk about living in Massachusetts. But when we got orders to go back to Germany, we had to do some other things to make sure that Mom was no longer on a green card.
Okay. Okay. Before we start on that, we had kind of talked about this. You joined the Army in 55. It's now 1963, right? The beginning of 1963.
Right.
Are you noticing any difference in the Army between the time you joined in 55 and now in the early 60s? It's beginning of 63.
I think significant difference. When I joined the Army in 1955, the uniforms that we were issued were ODs, our dress uniforms. We had Ike jackets, and it was called the Brown Shoe Army because your shoes were brown, your boots were brown. I believe it was in 1958. I'm sure it was in 1950. I just don't know when in 1958.
Right.
We got new uniforms that were green,
Right.
and they were no longer the Ike jacket. They were full-length jackets like a suit jacket,
Right.
except you buttoned it up the whole way. And our shoes and boots became black. So the people who were in the Army prior, the people who were in the Brown Shoe Army referred to that as the Black Shoe Army.
Right.
And I think the discipline started faltering. The discipline that I was introduced to when I joined the service was starting to falter when we started changing from the Brown Shoe Army to the Black Shoe Army. And I don't know that this is accurate, but
Right.
at some point in that time period, I think they kicked a lot of people out because of IQs. I can't swear that that's accurate memory,
Right.
but I remember we lost some really good NCOs that had served in World War II in Korea in that period of time. Now, it might have been for some other reasons,
Right.
but there were several of them. So I think it was based on IQ levels. And we called that, the guys who were in the Army who believed that was what was occurring, called that the dum-dum discharge. And I think,
but there were some good people.
There were some great,
right.
They were
Yeah.
great people. I mean,
Yeah.
there was, I mean, the NCOs that I had in the Army were, for the majority of them, were really excellent leaders and people.
Right.
I mean, and you know, they had been through a lot of them. But as we get into further into the military, I didn't experience it as much as other people because I'm no longer in the line unit, a combat unit. The people
Right.
in the air defense, we're dealing with nuclear weapons. We all have top secret clearances.
Right.
I mean, so it's a little different ball game. We weren't living in the field together, spending 24 hours a day together, other than sitting in a nice, comfortable building or van,
Right.
being nice and comfy and weather-wise. We weren't out there enduring the elements.
And you usually weren't on base with the rest of them, right?
No, and we weren't being asked to do anything that we thought was impossible to do, like some of the people in the infantry and other
Right.
combat arms units. And you'll see during the Vietnam War, fracking was introduced, and fracking was American troops killing American NCOs and officers.
Because they didn't like them.
They didn't like the orders they were given. And again, it's a society.
Right.
The people in the Army, especially at that time, were still drafting. I mean, it didn't really change after the
Right.
draft. But so you're getting whatever's in society, you're getting in the military. And so society's changing.
Now, you had mentioned about the stockade
Right.
that you saw a decline in
I
from
think
55 to 63.
I'm not sure, but I think again at the turn of the Black Shoe Army,
Right.
I think the Army started getting rid of those. I mean, those were guys who were doing military violations. You know, I missed formation.
Right.
I didn't. I stayed out overnight. I wasn't supposed to. They had violated things that were Uniform Code of Military Justice, not serious.
Right.
They would be misdemeanors. It wouldn't be a felony. And so they could get 30 days in the stockade, which was 30 days bad time. They were punished for misbehaving. That started going away, and you started doing rehabs.
Right.
So if you screwed up, but we're going to rehab you. We're going to, like our prisons do, instead of punishing prisoners, we're going to rehab them. Everybody's rehabable. Well, that's not true.
Right. And so you noticed the decline in the use of the stockade.
Yeah, I never saw it again after I left Germany in 1959. I never saw or heard of anybody going to the stockade.
I saw it in Illesheim. Was that different?
There was no stockade in Illesheim. That was just a jail.
Just a jail cell. All right. So we're in 63 now, and you got a house in Massachusetts.
Right.
And so 1963 in Boston, I think of the Boston Strangler. Right. Now, was he there? Was he not yet there?
No, he was there. He was there. We moved into Boston. We drove to Boston as a family. We move into Boston. It's you, I, and Mom, and we go in temporary quarters in a location called Fort Banks, Fort Banks is a fort in the middle of Winthrop, Massachusetts. Winthrop is a suburb of Boston, and Winthrop is on the coast. It's the Atlantic Ocean coast. I'm pretty sure. And we move in there, and we have temporary quarters. Well, temporary quarters has TV and and so we'd watch the news, and it was all about the Boston Strangler. It was just going on and on about the Boston Strangler. And I'm not too sure some of the murders didn't take place closer into Winthrop, but it was happening across the entire greater Boston area, I believe. At least the media and everybody was talking about the Boston Strangler.
How about the people in the neighborhood? What was going on there?
Well, we stayed in temporary quarters, and that's when we first heard about the Boston Strangler. Then we got a house in a town called Woburn.
Right.
And Woburn, again, another suburb of Boston. And the little community we lived in, there was about 10 houses like the one we were in.
Right.
It was a 2-bedroom, living room, kitchen, basement. Nice house, very nice house. But there was about 8 or 10 or 12 of them that were new builds.
Right.
And there was one other house in our neighborhood that we were on. That was an older house. It was 2-story. It looked like an old farmhouse.
Right.
But everybody in the neighborhood had a big dog. Rottweilers, Doberman. The guy in the old house had the largest German Shepherd I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen some big German Shepherds. This dog was just a monster. He wasn't vicious. He walked down the street with the owner, and he would mind his own business. But he was a huge, huge dog.
And this was all in response to the Boston Strangler.
I'm sure everybody in the neighborhood says, if you come in my house, somebody's going to bite you. And we eventually got a German Shepherd. But yeah, so it was big news about the Boston Strangler.
Now, at this time, was Mom glued to the news like
No,
she always, like she is now?
no, I created that monster later, uh, probably the last 12 years, 15 years. She's been paying attention to what's going on in the country, and the more she pays attention to it, the more news she wants to watch. And she's not selective of the news she watches. I am. I won't
Right.
watch certain people or programs because I think they're
Would you take
lies.
it back if you could?
I would, but that's just because I get tortured to have to watch the stuff she likes to watch.
All right. So 63, what's going on in the Army for you? I mean, what are you doing in the Army in
Okay, so
1963?
we get sent back to the United States. We're in Boston. Boston, as I mentioned in prior conversations we've had,
Right.
all the major cities in the United States were circled with air defense weapons. And at that time, the air defense weapons were Nike Ajax, which was HE, high explosive, shoot down one plane,
Right.
um, or the Nike Hercules, which was a nuclear armed missile that would shoot down a whole formation of planes uh, if you if they wanted to come in close proximity. It was a
Right.
bad idea. And those missile batteries circled the cities, and we we controlled them from. And there was a missile master in Boston,
Right.
just like the one that I'd gone to school for in Pittsburgh, and they
Right.
built in Pittsburgh. Well, they built those missile masters in all the locations to control the missile sites that were around the country.
Right. And so your job was you control the missiles around Boston.
And at that time, we were the control center for all of the air defense units in the Boston area.
Right. And so, uh, what was the work? I mean, just briefly, what was the work? What would you do?
Well, again, it's the same thing, except you're not plotting behind plexiglass boards. You have all the screens and all the equipment that you had of the missile master radars.
Right.
So you're looking at the same thing that missile batteries are looking at. If we're doing exercises, or if there would have been an air attack to the country. And we're back to shift work. And at that time, I'm 86. And so now I'm in charge of one of the shifts. So and I think it was, again, 12 hours on, 24 off, or it might have been 24 on, 48 off. I'm not sure
Right.
how we worked it.
And so, how long? How long did you do that? All of 63? I mean, what?
Well, we got there at the end of 62, the beginning of 63. And we left the Boston area in probably April or May of 64.
Right.
And so the whole time I was there, again, it's a job. It's the same thing in all military units. You have a job to do, you
Right.
do that specific job, and when you're not doing that job, you're training
Right.
to do that job, or you're maintaining some equipment that you have.
Right.
In this case, we didn't have to maintenance the equipment at the missile master. There were contractors who did that.
Right.
And we just did the operational mission when we were on duty and trained when we were off duty.
All right. Now I have in my notes, like on the family stuff, that Mom learned to drive during this period of time.
Yeah, Mom hadn't driven.
Before you get there, right? In Germany, like in Augsburg,
Right.
did you need to drive? Did you have to have a car?
No, you had public transportation take you anywhere, and Mom almost drop you off in front of the door, and that was public transportation. The streetcars primarily.
Right.
I mean, I took a streetcar. Mom took a streetcar, but we got a car eventually.
Right.
we had a 51 Mercedes convertible, and it wouldn't start all the time. So you had to hand choke it. You had to open up, take the carburetor off, and Mom had to go out and put her hands on the carburetor and pick them up while I tried to start the car.
Bet you wished you had that today.
Oh man, that was a beautiful car.
But over here, it's a little different than that, right? I mean, you need a car over here.
Yeah, I mean, if you lived in the cities, when I grew up in Swissvale, you didn't
Right.
need a car.
Right.
There was a grocery store and a pharmacy on the corner.
Right.
There were privately owned places, but big box stores started coming in mid 50s, early mid 50s, and
Right.
they just took over all the mom and pop stores that were around, and we started moving to the suburbs, and it was further and further spread away or spread out. So
Right.
you needed a car to get around. We lived in Woburn. There was no grocery stores or anything that you could walk to. You know, if you want to go grocery shopping or something, you'd take a car.
So back in '63, when Mom was learning to drive, what was the process there? What's the procedure back then? Do you remember?
Well, I don't think it's changed.
Right.
You go take a driver's test, and you take a written test and a driver's test.
So it was the same back
It
then.
was the same back then. Yeah, you take a written test, and in most places, had a state trooper administer the driving portion of the test. My mom went to a driving school to learn. I tried to teach her, but that didn't work. So we decided.
Which one of you was
For
the cause of the problem?
For the sake of our marriage, it was mutual.
A mutual?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working. Was Mom at home then during this time?
Well, she decided that she wanted to go to work, and there was a mattress factory that was almost across the street from where we lived. It was across the interstate. I think it was
Right.
Highway 1. I think that was the name of the highway in Boston that most people traveled on. And it wasn't far from where we lived. And so she went to work there, and you went to a daycare center, which I don't think you enjoyed. But you went there, and she went to work. Now, I don't remember how she got back and forth to work. She may have card pulled with somebody. But I had to go, when I had to go to work, I had to drive probably 20 miles to get to
Right.
Fort Heath, where I was stationed. And is Winthrop, and Winthrop was roughly 20 miles from there. There was a Riviera was a town next to Winthrop,
Right.
and it was on the beach also, and it was like an amusement park. Like an amusement park.
Right.
And some days you and Mom would go to the beach and stay there. And one day you guys wanted to ride the roller coaster, and I said, I'm not riding the roller. It looked like I was going to fall down.
Right.
But you and Mom went on the roller coaster. I'm not sure you've ever ridden a roller coaster.
I don't think I've ever been back.
And I know your mother wouldn't. She was about 6 shades of white.
Now, Oma came over at some point in '63, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I don't remember how.
Kennedy died.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think she came in maybe August, July. I'm not sure.
Right.
And she was going to stay till November, so it was going to be 2 or 3 months.
Right.
And she stayed with us, and she hung out with you most of the time when Mom was working or wasn't around. This time, Mom's pregnant now with Jackie.
Right.
And
now, how did Oma get back and forth from Germany?
Ship. She was on a ship. She took a ship over.
She enjoyed that?
I think she did. I think she had a nice time on the ship, met people, and yeah. So I think it was a nice trip for her.
Would that have been similar to a cruise today?
I don't think it was that way. I mean, we came back one time, and we'll talk about that later on a ship, the USS United States, I think.
Right.
It was, we had a cabin, and it was nice, but I don't think the cruises are different. They're going someplace. They're stopping every day. You're getting off the ship. This is where I'm going from A to B. But no, she stayed. And she stayed until, I think she was going back somewhere around the 25th or something like that in
Right.
November. Well, of course, on the 22nd of November, Kenny's assassinated. I'm at work, and Mom calls me and says, "Hey, they just shot Kennedy." So all of us get on the television, and for the next, I think next week or two, that's all you saw. That's all you heard.
Assassination.
Assassination. And I don't know if we still have newspapers. I got to look one of these days. We had the Boston Globe was a newspaper,
Right.
and I think we had the first day or second day coverage of the Kennedy assassinations, and I think we still have the newspaper, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway,
the only thing I have, the other thing I have here is a note about wasps during this time.
oh yeah, that was you and so you and another kid and dog are out playing. Mom's not home. Almost watching you, and the dog comes running out of the area you guys were playing in first, and then you and your buddy come running out screaming because you're getting eaten alive by bees or wasps, whatever it was. And Oma takes you in the house and starts undressing you, and you got inside your clothes, and she's killing them, and you got a bunch of hot bites, bee bites on you. But after a while, you calm down, and nothing happened to you. I mean, you didn't get sick, you didn't. But what I don't think you go near beehives anymore.
No. So that kind of finishes up 63, right?
Yeah, the 63 was a fairly okay year. We went through the year.
Right.
It was a bad year for the country. Kennedy got murdered. But for us, we did okay. When we arrived in Woolburn, Jim,
right,
we opened a bank account. We put $200 in their savings account.
Right.
That was our emergency money. It was $200.
Right.
And we left Winthrop a year and a half later. We withdrew $200.
So you still had it.
We hadn't spent it, but we didn't add to it either.
Yeah. Now, were you still making nothing? I mean, like you were in 55, 56?
I'm in E6 now, and Wilbur Mills was a congressman.
Right.
And he was trying to look out for the military, so he got, through his efforts, we got several raises in that period of trying to give us a livable wage. But we weren't making more than quarters allowance took care of the quarters, that house we lived in, plus utilities and everything. So we didn't have to pay for any of that. But I got rations, which is about $30 a month, $35 a month, and my pay, which probably was at that time as a E6, $250, $300.
All right. So that takes us to 64. Now, in early 64, we're still in Boston.
Yeah, we're still in Woolburn.
Woolburn.
Okay.
Right.
And so Oma went back. We drove Oma to New York to put her on the ship. I think it was around November 25th or in that neighborhood, because the place was quiet. There wasn't any traffic. It was all still, everybody's trying to get over the shock of Kennedy getting murdered. And so Oma got on the ship and went back to Germany. And I'm not sure. My mother was going to come up when Mom went in the hospital or after she was in the hospital. I'm not sure which came first. But the doctor at that time, when Mom was pregnant with you, she gained about 50 pounds. In the mid 60s, doctors didn't want you to gain more than 20 pounds or so.
Right.
And Mom had a good doctor in Woolburn, which people were surprised she was able to get. He was an older guy.
Right.
And he wanted her to stay around that 20-pound mark. Or he threatened to put her in the hospital. Well, we never went anyplace. We didn't go shopping.
Right.
We went together because normally I drove. And there was a store called Bradley's that wasn't far from where we lived. And we would go to Bradley's. It sold clothing and food and different things.
Right.
So we'd go in Bradley's and shop and then go home and put the stuff away that we bought. We had gone, I don't know, on a Friday or something and put stuff up, and we're in the house doing stuff. And I look behind, I don't know, a toaster or something catches my eye. I look behind, there's a dozen donuts up there. Where'd these come from? Your mom had bought the donuts. I was with her.
You didn't see them.
I never saw the donuts. There was another incident where your mother did a purchase in Woburn. There's a guy coming around selling bushels of apples. I think the bushels of apples were $2.50 each. And so he knocked on the door and told him, trying to sell his apples for $2.50. And Mom said, "No, I don't want any apples for $2." He said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you a deal. I'll give you 2 bushels for $5." She couldn't get it out of her pocket or $5 quick enough for that deal. She brought him into the house, and after about 5 minutes, she realized, and she went out looking for that guy, but that guy was gone. So
You had apples.
We had apples. You and I had apples for everything. Every meal was applesauce, apple something. We ate apples to it coming out of our ears.
They didn't go to waste.
No, we ate every one of them.
All right. So Jackie's born at this time.
So this was a Saturday night. The doctor wanted to go in the hospital, and he was going to induce labor.
Right.
On Sunday. And I think you and I took Mom to the hospital. And we come home, and that night there was a snowstorm. 24 inches, 30 inches of snow. So I'm going to visit the hospital, and I don't remember if you went with me or if my mother had come in and she was going to stay with you. I don't remember the sequence. Anyway, I had to go out, and the driveway that we had at the house was pretty good size. So I had to go out and shovel snow for an hour to get my car out of the driveway. I mean, they took care of the roads in the Northeast. They have vehicles to go out and clean them up. And so I could drive to the hospital. The roads were clean enough for me to drive. But when I got back, the wind had blown and filled in the driveway that I'd shoveled out. Well, I got smart and said, well, I'm not going to put the car all the way in the front. I'm just going to put it in the back here. Leave enough room for the snowplow to come by and fill up the exit again. But because that happened, I had to go out and dig it out again. But, so we're taking care of going down and seeing Mom. And I believe my mother, and she had Pete, who's your uncle's a year younger than you, a year or something. He was there. You had gotten the chicken pox. So I think my mother was going to stay for a week or so and then go back. But after several days, Pete got the chicken pox. So they weren't going anywhere until the chicken pox went on. That was a couple of weeks. And then my mother went home, and
this is all in early '64.
This is February, maybe early March. And about the end of that time, in that same time period, we get orders that we're going to Germany, which your mother's elated. We're going back to Germany. Now, the initial assignment is that we're going to go there for 3 years. And the lease on our house that the military had gotten from civilian whoever was not going to be renewed. So we had to move from Woburn to a town called Beverly. Now, Beverly had housing for military people. That housing had been built for people manning one of the missile sites. And there was a vacancy in one of those houses. So rather than going out and trying to find leased property, they put us in that vacant property at Beverly. And so we had to move everything. So it was another move.
Number 10.
Yeah, and we moved to Beverly, and we didn't unpack everything. we unpacked what we needed because
Right.
we knew we were leaving in 2 months. At the same period of time, Mom had to get her citizenship because we couldn't go back to Germany on her green card and then have the 1 year restriction about being out of the country, etc.
Right.
And so because I was in the Army, we got a little bit of preference to get her citizenship. But she had to go down in Boston to Boston, and we got the document. She had to study a bunch of stuff about
Right.
American history and about America, and we did all of that together. And then she
Right.
went down and had to take a quiz and passed the quiz and got her American passport.
Right.
This was so we could go to Germany and stay in Germany.
And she wouldn't have to come back.
And I wouldn't have any issues with being able to get back in the country. So and I think probably May, June,
Right.
we go to Germany. I think we flew to Germany. Now it's you, Mom, Jackie, and me. And Jackie's only 3 months old. And we get stationed in Baumholder. Now I said
Right.
earlier that Grafenwehr and Hornsfeld were training sites. Well, so was Baumholder. But I'm not sure of the size. I think Baumholder was not the equivalent of the other two. But we're stationed in Baumholder. So we move into temporary quarters in Baumholder.
That's move number 11.
Right. And we're going to stay there probably 2-3 months. I mean, we got our stuff shipped from the United States. We unpacked it. We moved in. We're on the 4th floor of housing for families. And we stay there for, I like to say, 2-3 months. And we get permanent quarters. And we move into the permanent quarters.
That'd be 12. Right.
Yeah. And at that time, Dodie came to stay with us. Dodie, and right away, her and Jackie became bosom buddies. And every day, Jackie would go in a stroller, and Dodie would take her out into the fields. And where they would go, there was a shepherd had a flock of sheep and a shepherd, a German shepherd dog to work the sheep. And so Dodie and Jackie would hang out with this guy, sit around, talk to him. The dog would hang out with them. And like you, Jackie's first language was German. I mean, her was a little bit better because she was at home where I'm speaking with English. You were around nobody who spoke English.
Right.
So she learned a little bit of English, but she could speak German as good as a German. And we did that. I mean, that was from a living perspective. That was pretty much, now we're in permanent quarters and other things will happen
Right.
from a military perspective. But when we got to Baumholder, my job was I was the NCOIC in charge of the control center. And it was a control center with a van and a radar. But this time we weren't controlling Hawk missiles. We were controlling the Hercules families of missiles because the U.S. Army had air defense capabilities that were starting to become obsolete, Ajax and Hercules. And again, one's HE, one's nuclear. And the nuclear side of the air defense systems, those Nike Hercules could also be used as surface-to-surface missiles. You just had to do a whole lot of calculations to make sure they blow up where you wanted them to blow up. But that was some of the exercises we would do also.
And so this was from 64 into 65.
This is from 64 into 65. And again, I didn't work shift work. I went up every day and make sure we did everything you do. We would dig in and fix things and repair and train.
Right. Now, Mom go to work during this time?
Mom went to work at the snack bar in the concern at
I think
at
there's a
Trumholm.
picture of that floating around somewhere.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we
Just
have,
one,
yeah, we have a lot of pictures that I know we have a picture of me in Lebanon, sitting in front of my pup tent.
Yeah.
Um, we have pictures of my Mercedes. I mean, I think we have several pictures. You just haven't
Yeah.
gone through them in years.
Yeah. And that's really takes us to the end of 64, right?
Right.
Okay.
That takes it. I don't think anything uh, from a military perspective. I'm an E6, and nothing changes in 64. I mean, it's just go to work, come home.
And from time to time, we'd go visit in Augsburg too, right?
Yeah, we always
Yeah.
we at least once a month we took a trip back to Augsburg. And Jackie and we'd take Dodie. She'd go with
Right.
us, and then Jackie would stay at Dodie's house overnight. And that was forever. I mean, every time we went there, she was there. And Jackie is as fluent in German as a German, and she still is.
Yeah.
So
Do you believe that she won a motorcycle?
that I believe she won a motorcycle.
Did you see the thing?
No.
I got a thing today that Jackie won a motorcycle
Oh, yeah.
at the BMW museum.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah.